Hey there, friends. Kevin here from the Chord Progression Podcast. Today's episode is one that I was hoping I wasn't going to have to ever make, but it's something that has to be brought up in the whole entire scope of transparency, to be completely honest with you guys. So here we go. In short, the podcast is struggling. The Chord Progression Podcast is struggling. I am struggling right now, both podcast wise and personally, where I don't really even know where to start outside of that. So since the beginning of the year, I have been working with a couple of guys over in the UK, and we took a look at the podcast. So it's like, okay, we're at a point where, I've done this for 4 full years. And we're almost at 400 episodes, which is insane to think about. I mean, how cool is that? But really diving deep into it, seeing where the viability of this is, because that's where I always wanted this to be at some point soon, was have this podcast be financially fruitful enough to the point where I could focus full time in on this and really create the best possible podcast possible. And right now we are nowhere near close to that. Taking a look at the financials and everything, we did a lot of different marketing in 2022, that I tried, and let's just say that it was the most inefficient use of money I think I've ever made in my entire life. And to be completely honest with you guys, I do keep track of everything, and last year, in terms of marketing, I spent between $6,000 and $7,000 on it alone. And in the end, I mean, we saw this spike in overall streams for the audio side of things. But when we stopped doing that at the beginning of the year to see, okay, how fruitful was this? The amount of retention that we got off of that was slim to none. And by slim to none, I mean like razor thin slim to none. And when you take a look at that number and you see how much has been taken away, it's like, my God, that's a lot of money. And it's scary to think about. I mean, I also track all the every single person I make in regards to the podcast, in regards to marketing it, everything around there, and how much money has actually been brought in through some of the sponsorships that we've had and still have. This is the one that shocks me the most, and I'm going to be as upfront and honest with you guys. I'm going to give you the legit number as I see it right now. Since starting the podcast, I am in the hole $44,734.93. And the reason I'm giving you the exact number is to show you guys, I was not taking this lightly, but clearly whatever I was doing wasn't working for this podcast. And it sucks to take a look at that number, because I'm thinking about just how much I've wasted in terms of money on this. You think about what else you could have done with that. There's other people that think you could have gone and, bought a new car. You could have bought a house. You could have, or put down good down payment down on a house. You could have said that you could have invested into something else. But I never wanted to invest that money in something else other than this podcast, based on the fact that this is what has driven my happiness and has made me the person I am today over the past 4 to 5 years. And what I mean by that is, we take a look back at when this whole entire thing started. I look back to 2017. At the beginning of the year, I had just gotten done with college. I'm talking about January 1st, 2017. I had just gotten done with college. I had my degree, no student debt to speak of, because I got it done a semester early, and I had the world in front of me. I had family around me that loved me. I had a great relationship. Everything was going great. And 6 months later, everything turned topsy-turvy upside in its head. The relationship that I had was no more. And the blame mostly is going to be on me for my lack of action, my lack of communication. I forgive myself for it because it's led me to the podcast, but if I'm going to be honest with you, the pretty much the lone relationship I had was because I was not ready for it. I was not ready to go forward in certain things, and I was nervous, and I just did not communicate very well. I held things in, and it really ruined a lot. And then I had a full-time job, my first full-time job out of college, which I loathed. Absolutely loathed, to the point where that was the main catalyst behind driving my depression and me not wanting to be here anymore, because I thought, is this what life is really like once, college is over? Once I'm into the work world, is this what life is like? So I wanted to find something for myself. I wanted to find something why I was still motivated, when I was in school, while I was studying economics. What was I motivated for? And the motivation came from me wanting to do things for myself. So I needed to find something for myself. I didn't know what it was. And then the whole entire initial idea for the Amazon Alexa skill started, and that launched in August of 2018. But the podcast became part of a initial supplementary piece that started in 2019. But as you can tell, the Chord Progression Podcast for the past 4 years went from just a small supplementary piece to the main thing that we do. And the reason why it's still the main thing that we do is because the amount of positivity I get from doing this for myself, the great relationships I've formed not only with the bands and the fans of the podcast, but everybody in between. It's stuff that is immeasurable in terms of how valuable it really is. And I take a look back and think about, the people that I've met, the bands that I take a look at all the bands and the artists that we've connected with and the great times that we've had and the great relationships we've been formed and just how positive it's been for me. The second band I ever interviewed was Kingdom Collapse. Jonathan Norris has been on the podcast 5 times. And every time I have him on the podcast, it's an absolute gem. And being able to see them perform live right before the pandemic hit. I'm talking, I saw him in Illinois on March 14th, 2020, when everything completely shut down by the 16th or 17th. I got to see him one time before that. And then being able to actually see them continue to grow, continue to just gain so much traction, gain so much on Octane, and then see him live on the From Ashes to New Tour in 2022, and having Jonathan Norris twice during that run, during shows, just blurt out, "Hi, Kevin," during the middle of the set. I mean, that just always makes me smile. I think about the girls at GFM. I think about how the relationships that we had with them, and then in Rockfest 2021 during their third set of the day, how I got to go up on stage and throw cupcakes into the crowd. I think about being able to connect with the guys in Caskets. I think about being able to, support them and everything they do, and then them coming to the U.S. for the first time and getting to meet them all in person and being able to make good on my promise of first ones on me by delivering them a case of beer to their bus. And that was just so cool. Being able to meet Joey Varea from Varsity, being able to talk with him multiple times and bringing him that can of Blue Moon. Even though I didn't know he liked Blue Moon even up to that point. Meeting Joey Arena from Outlier, the incredible conversation having, and just the genuine person that he is. Everything that we did with when we were Hungry Festival, even though it did not fully go through, I will still support Will and Modern Day Escape to this day, because that was something where it's like, I never would have even been put in a position to try something like that if it wasn't for this. Even though, we've gone through the ups and downs of that, I still get so much positivity from this podcast in terms of every time a guest comes in, no matter who the guest is, and the guest could be someone gigantic, like when we've had From Ashes to New, when we've had, we did the one with the Warning, we did the one with Doc Coyle. It could, any of our friends, I mean, when we did the one with Garrett from Sound Planet, every time I get to talk to Benny from Avoid, I get super duper excited. But even like the ones that, you guys don't even know about yet, or the ones that, you're like, oh, I've never heard this band before, I want to check them out. Every time they jump into, I get the same level of excitement. I get the same level of energy. It's an adrenaline rush. And it's the same kind of rush that I get when I go into a mosh pit. And the amount of people I've met in those mosh pits, because I get so much energy from that as well, and get to get so many people, so many other bands from that, has been incredible. I mean, there's a couple of people that always stand out to me. There's always going to remember the times going to Madison, Wisconsin, and seeing this big bodybuilding motherfucker in the pit throwing people around. I'm like, you know what? I got to be able to, hang around with this guy, because he's going to be throwing up people in the pit. And even though he's going to toss me around at times, I just got to be willing to come back for more. And I'm friends with him today. So what's up, Nate? I think about going to see Fit for a King and Avoid in March of 2022, and me starting the pit with one other guy. I think there was another one in there. Well, about specifically one other person. And then after that set for the Void, him and I just started talking. Him and I and his girlfriend have gone to many, many, many shows together. We recently went down to Chicago to see We Came as Romans together, and I love spending time with them as much as I can. So Shane and Ray, I love you both. I think about all the people I still get to see otherwise from all these other places, the Icon Pit Crew, being able to model you guys at Blue Ridge Rock Fest. I never would have gone to Blue Ridge had I not, done this podcast. And just being able to mosh with you guys like crazy. Meeting you guys like Jake and Jarek and Christian and Nico and Nate and Nick from the Chicago group. I always love seeing you guys. I love seeing you guys at shows, and I love being able to talk to you guys and be a part of like that friend. I absolutely love it. And I would have never been able to do that if it hadn't been for the podcast. I never would have met Erica Leanne if it wasn't for the podcast. I never would have met Lexi Messina if it wasn't for the podcast. And those are friendships that I cherish. I also will never, all the people we've met through the live streams as well and seeing live, in person as well. Shout out to Mr. Julian Purnell, moshing with you, man, at Blue Ridge Rock Fest for the Ghost Side, and then at Louder Than Life for Crown the Empire was a hell of a lot of fun, and we're going to do it again in 2023 for some, man. Hopefully it's like We Came as Romans again, because I like We Came as Romans. Or if it's Rise Against, oh yeah! But I still think about all this stuff, and it's like, this is what keeps me going, where it's the positivity, but the past month I've had to look reality in the face, and not only, through the podcast in terms of the fact that, listener retention is not there. It's not where we need to be. The growth is nowhere near where we need it to be. Every time I'm trying something in terms of like what I could do new, what I could do for social content, it's like me throwing darts at a dartboard and hoping something works. It's, I'm not a good marketer, and that's my problem. I cannot market this stuff. Can I put together one hell of an episode? Can I interview band like it's none other? Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't be doing almost 400 episodes of these if I wasn't able to do that. But marketing it, I've blown a lot of money on that. I've wasted a lot on that. I've wasted a lot of time on that for stuff that hasn't even worked. And personally, it has taken a toll, because you take a look at the financials and it starts to bring back those feelings of depression once again. You take a look at the things that haven't worked, because I got comfortable with certain things. Actually, no, I'm scratch that. I did get comfortable with certain things, and I thought I was going to grow, but I never got out of my own way. I never actually took a step back, take a look, and see what I was doing. I just kept working straight through and thought that hard work was going to keep breaking me through it. It wasn't hard work doesn't keep having me break through it. It was hard work based off of smart decisions that was going to do, and I have not made those smart decisions in terms of marketing the podcast. Taking a look at the amount of money lost, that really brings me down in terms of just constantly about what's going on and trying to fix this myself, as well as just not the way to go about it. And money-wise, I still have to have a full-time job to support this stuff. My earnings from 2022 to 2023, depending upon how you build inflation into there, the value dips between 4.46% and 5.35%, depending upon what you're using as your rate of inflation. Whether you're using what the government used between Q1 2020 or Q3 2021 to Q3 2022, or what I use between the CPI or Consumer Price Index for all of 2022. So I take a look at it, and I just don't feel motivated anymore for like certain things in life, because I'm constantly trying to work with things. I'm constantly trying to, do the best I can at that full time, just so I can do what I continue to do to support this podcast, be able to still go to the gym so I can go to all these shows and have, the blast of a time that I have, and then come home and continue to work on this stuff and try and learn as much about it as possible, even though I'm struggling, and try and figure out ways that I can work with this, but I'm stuck. I'm absolutely stuck. I am struggling with this. I don't really sleep that much anymore. I don't really get to hang out with my friends much anymore because I'm sinking so much time into this. Time for myself? Are you kidding me? I don't know what that concept is. I have no idea what that is. My biggest fear of this all is that if this fails, if I fail, which I currently am failing, that I'm going to start to lose that. I'm going to lose that passion that I have for music. I feel like if I continue to go down this path, I'm going to lose out on what I really care about, which is making the most out of life. This is what gives me that like feeling to make the most out of life. And I just don't have, I'm losing it. And I'm afraid to go back to the emotions I had back in late 2017, early 2018, when things were at their absolute worst. I don't want to go back to that because I know how bad it was. I still see it in this picture from 2017, from Thanksgiving, where it was like we were outside and my mom wanted a family picture. So my mom and dad were together in the picture. My brother and his girlfriend at the time were in the picture. And so was I. And I look directly in my face every time I see that picture, and I just see the pain and I just see the anguish, and I see the fact that there's someone who just thinks that life isn't worth living anymore. I do not want to feel like that ever again. I look at that picture all the time and it pains me to look at it, but it's a reminder not to fucking give up on this. But I got to do something different. I got to make some sort of a change if we're going to end up being successful in this, and I can continue to do this, and we can continue to bring the Chord Progression Podcast be the best podcast out there. So what I want to do is I want to get to that point where I can do this full time. I want to get to the point where everyone's coming to this podcast to find out about all these different great rock and metal bands, to discover them in ways they never thought they could discover before, get connected with them they never thought in ways they could get connected with them before, and continue to build on this community where you belong here, no matter who the hell you are, no matter what you believe in, no matter what certain orientations you have. Just know that the fact that if you are a kind person and you love metal music, rock music, fuck yeah, please join the family. Please feel free to reach out. I want to be that place where you can come and you can always get to know all these new bands and feel like you're accepted and feel like you belong to something. That's what I want to do with the Chord Progression Podcast. That's what I want to have this whole entire thing be created. So when it comes to what we can do moving forward, this is how I'm looking at it. 2023 for the next 10.5 months is the make or break year. And what I mean by that is I am basically giving myself an ultimatum at this point. And the ultimatum is, if we are not seeing any sort of significant, or we are not actually doing anything, we're still stagnant by the end of 2023, that's it. That's it. I have to, at that point, I'm going to have to accept defeat. And I don't want to accept defeat. I'm not afraid. I can't be afraid to fail, and I have to be looking at that reality, but I do not want it. I have to be able to, not be afraid of failure, but I have to know that it's staring me right in the goddamn face right now. And it's scary to say that, especially again, taking a look at how much money I've lost. And by the time this episode releases, that negative is going to definitely go to 45,000 easily. I'm pretty sure it already has. So we are currently working alongside the guys at Get More Listeners Academy, who are currently helping us out with a lot of this stuff. So there's going to definitely be some changes in terms of over the next couple of months, especially to see, what's going on with the podcast. Will the interviews change? No. We're still going to be interviewing all these great bands, no matter if they're some of the biggest bands in the world, or if, they're still on the small side. Most likely they're on the smaller side, but, we're still going to be interviewing them and still giving you our all, because these episodes are still fantastic, and I still get that giddiness every time I see someone pop up in the corner. That'll still happen every Tuesdays and Thursdays. When it comes to the type of content around that, in terms of what we're doing on social media, Twitter's gone. Twitter's not going to be a thing anymore. In 4 years, we had 120-something followers. We are not there. So why put the energy there? We are currently reviewing what's going well with TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook to see what we can do there, if we're going to drop any of those. I feel like we might drop TikTok, but I'm a little nervous about it. I kind of just want to retool it because, again, there's definitely going to be a chance there, given the fact that everyone, kind of goes there for music discovery these days. So if we're going to be about, getting people into new bands, being the gateway to new rock and metal music, I feel like we're going to have to be there, but we'll see what happens. Again, we're working with the guys from Get More Listeners Academy to really work alongside this to figure this out. When it comes to the live streams, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with those. We might stop doing those, because as much as I like connecting with everybody, I'm just not sure that, going forward for the immediate future, if that's going to be an idea that we have to undertake. Where was I going to go with that? Every Friday from now on, though, you will be getting updates, like a 5 to 10 minute long recap of the week in terms of the guests that we had on, what were some of the best points from those episodes. So you can always go back and check those out. Of course, we always chapter those episodes, so you're going to be able to go back and quickly review them. and of course, what's going on with us and what you can expect coming in the next week. This will be a great way to stay in touch with the podcast and get to know exactly what you missed out on, if you missed out on anything, what to be excited for, and what you can go back to in terms of if you're like, hey, I missed out on the cool Super Smash Bros. Bit on this episode. I want to go check that out. Boom. We got you covered. Connection-wise, if you reach out to us via DM or comment on anything, we're still going to comment back. I'm going to comment back because it's just me still, but I'm going to do my best to comment back. I hope I can comment back on everybody, but there's, again, with everything else trying to do and retool this, I don't know how often I'm going to be able to. I'm going to do my best to comment to everybody, though, and respond to everybody. And I'm down. It's like I'm in a mosh pit right now. It feels like I've fallen down. And it's at the point where I'm falling down and I kind of feel like I have to pick myself back up. But we all know the rule of the pit is if someone falls down, you pick their ass back up. The amount of times people have fallen in the pit and I've helped and I've picked their asses back up, I'm asking for some help here. So I'm gonna close it. I'm gonna close this episode that I never really want to make by saying this. I'm not going to give up on trying on this, but I do have to face reality, the fact that failure is staring me right in the face. 2 days prior to recording this, I was in Chicago to see We Came as Romans play live. And you guys know I love seeing We Came as Romans play live. That was the first time all year that I've actually been able to just be present in the moment and lost in the moment. Oddly enough, they do have the song Lost in the Moment. It kind of helped. It felt good again. And that's why I don't want to give up on this, even though we're staring failure directly in the face right now. So I'm going to remember this We Came as Romans song known as Fade Away. That's going to be the theme song for me going through the rest of the year. I'm not going to fade away on this, but I do need some absolute help. My best friend in the whole world has had this saying for years. It's not about the setbacks, it's about the comebacks. And Alex, you're right. I've been set back on so many things. But it's not about the setbacks, man. It's about how we're going to make this comeback. I'm out.